Facing Britain, the strongest was the 2nd Air Fleet, with its headquarters in Brussels. Its area of operations was to the east of a boundary drawn down the centre of England. 2nd Air Fleet was commanded by Field Marshal Albert Kesselring, a former army officer. Kesselring had under his command 5 wings of Messerschmitt 109 fighters, each of around 100 aircraft, 2 wings of twin-engined 110s, and a mixed group of 109 and 110 fighter bombers, numbering about 40. Kesselring's striking power was 2 wings of Stukas and 6 wings of twin-engined bombers. 3rd Air Fleet was based in France, south of the Seine, and had its headquarters in Paris. The fleet was commanded by Field Marshal Hugo Sperl, the most experienced senior officer in the German Air Force. For escort duties, Sperl had 3 wings of 109 fighters and a wing of 110s. His bomber force was made up of 4 wings of Stukas, some under strength, and 5 wings of twin-engined machines. There was also a single group, around 30 aircraft, of precision night attack and pathfinder bombers. To the north, in Norway and Denmark, was the 5th Air Fleet, with its headquarters at Stavanger. 5th Air Fleet was commanded by Colonel General Hans-Jürgen Stumpf, an ex-army officer. Stumpf had 2 wings of twin-engined bombers and 1 of twin-engined fighters. He also had a wing of 109s, but their range was too limited for operations over Britain. Altogether, 5th Air Fleet had only 163 combat aircraft capable of fighting in the battle. Unlike the German air fleets, which were independent entities, often unaware of each other's operations, Fighter Command's 4 groups were designed to work closely together. Cooperation would not always be flawless or wholehearted, but when the system functioned as it was meant to, it could make very effective use of fighter resources. The strength of each Fighter Command's groups was geared closely to the degree of threat each area faced. 11 Group, closest to France, was by far the strongest of the RAF's fighter groups. 11 Group was commanded by Air Vice Marshal Keith Park, a fighter ace of the First World War and a brilliant tactician. Park had 15 squadrons of Hurricanes and 6 of Spitfires. 10 Group, to the west, had only recently been formed. The group's commander was Air Vice Marshal Sir Christopher Quentin Brand. Brand had 3 Hurricane squadrons and 4 squadrons of Spitfires. 12 Group was based in the Midlands and was the 2nd most important of the RAF's fighter groups. The group was commanded by Air Vice Marshal Trafford Lee Mallory. Lee Mallory had 6 squadrons of Hurricanes and 5 of Spitfires. To the north, facing Scandinavia and the German 5th Air Fleet, was 13 Group. 13 Group's commander was Air Vice Marshal Richard Saul. Saul had 9 Hurricane squadrons and 4 squadrons of Spitfires. At the start of the July battles, German intelligence had compiled a reasonably accurate picture of RAF fighter strength. But since then, it had overestimated British losses and seriously underestimated the rate of production of new aircraft. Even after so many weeks of operations, the Germans knew very little about Fighter Command's air defense system. Although Germany had developed radar equipment of its own, it had never devised anything like the complex network the British had built. The function of sector station operations rooms was unknown, and it was assumed that the radar control of RAF fighters was rigid and inflexible. On the British side, intelligence was much more effective. By listening to radio traffic, including signals sent when aircraft sets were checked before a sortie, the strength of an imminent raid could be estimated with remarkable accuracy. Britain's most dramatic intelligence breakthrough had happened just before the war. Poland had given the British an example of the secret German code machine, Enigma. The code had been broken, and German radio traffic would be deciphered throughout the Battle of Britain. In the first week of August, decoded German messages included references to an impending Adlerangriff, or Eagle attack. It was clear to the British that the battle was about to enter a new phase. In Führer Directive No. 17, Adolf Hitler authorized Goering to begin the Eagle offensive at any time from August the 5th. Due to logistical problems and the weather, the offensive was postponed twice, but the forecasters finally concluded that August the 13th would see clear conditions for Eagle Day, the start of operations. The day before the aerial armada was to strike, the way would be cleared by the destruction of key British radar stations. The radar installations chosen as targets were the chain home stations at Rye, Pevensey, Ventnor, and Dunkirk, and the chain home low station at Dover. August the 12th began with 11 fighter sweeps by Messerschmitt 109s, starting at 0700 hours, almost 200 fighters altogether. Their role was to draw the defenders away from the target area. At 0840 hours, 16 Messerschmitt 110s took off from Calais. The raiders belonged to the elite Erprobungsgruppe 210, aircraft evaluation specialists and experts in precision fighter-bomber attacks. The first 4 aircraft section of 110s left the main formation and attacked the Dover station. Several buildings were damaged, but the bombs failed to destroy the masts or prevent operations. The second section peeled off inland towards the chain home installation at Dunkirk. Buildings were hit and the station stopped transmitting, but the masts survived. Rye was the next target. There, several huts were destroyed, communications were damaged, and the station stopped functioning. Again, the masts remained standing. The last section hit Pevensey. Little damage was done, but by chance a bomb hit the main electricity supply line, and transmission was interrupted. Later in the day, a formation of 80 Junkers 88s, escorted by 120 110s and 25 109s, headed for Portsmouth. 15 of the bombers broke away and attacked the Ventnor station. Almost every building was destroyed, and the masts were damaged.